And we don't have a whole lot of stuff on the board, but if we want to start digging into this first and so far only topic, we can do that.
Well, this is a thing that we discovered while working on a backwards compatible fix to support objects for service instance parameters. So it looks like some sort of a Mikado game where you pull something and everything breaks apart. But one of the things that we discovered is that, yeah, Georg mentioned this, but long story short, when you bind an app to a service, the stateful set gets restarted. But it is a soft restart, meaning that the very stateful set is restarted, which means that if your app is scaled to more than one instance, then you're not going to get downtime.
Mm.
So question is, do you know whether your productive users are scaling their, let's say, critical apps to more than one instances? I mean that we've been working on a parallel implementation to address this bug that causes such a restart because we are changing, bits for the service binding IO. But if we accept that the soft restart of apps is kind of okay, maybe we should not worry too much about it while working on the topic.
I think most of the people using it are scaled, but I'm not super confident in that.
Yeah, in our use case, they are not scaled.
Not okay.
We just have one instance.
Mm.
What if release notes are saying that before deploying, you should scale critical apps temporarily? Would that be acceptable?
Say it again.
To put a note under our release notes for the upcoming release that this release fixes this bug and this causes your stateful sets to be restarted. So if you don't want to have downtime for your important apps, you should scale them until the upgrade is done.
So
do you think that you will solve this issue in the future?
We actually tried to, but there's no easy way to really solve it. That's why we backed off and thought, okay, how bad this downtime is, and then we realized it's essentially rolling thing, rollout, which usually doesn't cause downtime. The reason why it's so hard to fix is because I'm confused again. So the reason is that it's very hard. Like restart in Kurifi is more or less a side effect from a declarative change on an annotation, which makes its way to the stateful set and then causes it to roll out all the pods. It's I don't think it's possible to tell the intention. Like if you're writing a controller, you can't really tell if this is a restart going on, right? You can cause it if you're a user, but if you're a controller, without looking at the last state, which you're never supposed to do because controllers are absolute rather than looking at deltas and all these kind of things, it's really not possible to only do service bindings on create or recreate of apps. But given that it's been basically working like this since forever and people have not complained, we thought maybe, I mean, people have been getting these restarts anyway, right? And this hasn't been a problem. I guess this hasn't been a problem because when you first push your app and you bind the instances, you're not using the app yet until it's converted to running state.
Yeah, okay, so it's true that at least in our use case, the binding happened during the deployment. So I would say a restart in that moment is not critical. in any case, if I look to the general CF API, you can bind whenever you want.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But if I well remember, if you do a binding at runtime, let's say, the CF API answer with the comment asking you to restage.
Yes, exactly. But in Kubernetes, it turns out the implementation currently is, you still get that prompt from the CLI because you're using the classic CLI, but underneath a restart will be caused for every bind or unbind because it changes the environment of the stateful set. Like it adds mounts, environment variables, things like that, and this causes the restart. So if it happens during deployment, it's probably not a problem, but we are more concerned that the other issue that we're working on might pretty much restart all apps when you bump to next release, which doesn't sound good. And that's why we were asking if critical apps are really scaled to more than one instance, because then there will be no downtime. If you have more instances, I guess you never drop to less than one available instance.
Yeah, to me, I've always sort of thought it was kind of just a peculiarity of Cloud Foundry that it doesn't restart, when you make env changes or whatever. But realistically, if you're adding a service binding to an app, probably the next thing you're going to do is restart it so that service binding takes effect, right?
But you may want to
People
bind to
don't
10.
normally add bindings like outside of a maintenance window or something. So I wouldn't think it's that big a deal. It seems like something we could just document as a difference in behavior.
The problem is that if you bind to 10 services, you're going to get 10 restarts.
Sure. And I guess you could get around that by, just pushing with a manifest and doing all 10 at the same time,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will mitigate it. I also thought about the manifesting. I guess the reason why we're bringing this up is because we arrived at it from a different angle, and this is the other issue that currently when I try to create a user-provided service instance -p for credentials, then the spec says you should be able to pass a full-blown JSON object. Right now, we have limited this to a shallow map, which is essentially a secret. We're trying to fix that, but in order to do this in a backward compatible way, we need to migrate existing secrets so that instead of the shallow key : string value thing, we create a secret with a single data key and then the marshaled object as a value. So it's an easy migration to do, but if you want to be backwards compatible, it becomes very hard because once you change the secret, service binding IO will trigger and restart the app. And this will more or less mean that if we were to release such a version of Kurifi, all apps will restart all at once on deploy, which sounds like a pretty bad thing.
So isn't that secret like, I mean, there's two secrets, right? One is the secret for the actual service binding, right? Which we just mount directly. And I wouldn't think that needs to change necessarily. The other is the secret that we build up for VCAP services, which we're going to turn into an environment variable, right?
Yep. It's a collection of all bindings in a specific format, all in one secret.
Right. So, yeah, sorry, maybe I didn't follow the thread quite closely enough, but what's the secret? Like, what's the secret that we're going to change the format of it? That's actually bound to the app.
But actually, Julian has a point. If we just migrate the service instance secret, but do not touch the service binding secret, then there is not going to be a restart.
Yeah, I think right now there's just one secret and you just get gets pushed through the statuses of all the objects, but it doesn't need to be like that. So maybe we can just start creating a service instance secret with the deep object and just not touch the ones that are already there and avoid restarts this way. Yeah, maybe we need to explore this a bit more.
Actually, this is not correct. We have a secret for the service instance credentials, and then we use the VCAP services builder to build the content of the VCAP services secret.
Mm-hmm.
The VCAP service secret is not a real issue here because it's not currently going through the service binding IO spec. And therefore it doesn't cause any restart, which actually is an inconsistency in itself. But that's not a topic. I don't want to boggle up things too much right now. But yeah, the VCAP services instance, the VCAP services secret is not a problem here. We're talking about the service binding things. But if we want to create instances with full JSON object credentials, we still need to somehow mount them in service binding IO. So, but yeah, if we try to create, because right now the way it works, when I do a create user provided instance, the API will create a service instance and a secret and set the secret name in the spec of the service instance. So this is the instance secret, and this is the one that we're trying to migrate. And then I think it gets pushed through to the service binding controller in current main implementation, and there it finds its way to the duck type, which then is being projected in the pod. So if we want to start supporting full objects, then the service instance secret, which is currently more or less the only secret, is affected by definition. But I guess, yeah, what do we do with current secrets, like with legacy secrets that we find on existing systems? That's the question. Like we decided to try and migrate them, but when you migrate them, this means you're more or less changing the definition of the service binding in the end. Maybe there's a clever way to go about here, to just do everything possible to not touch the existing secret. Like maybe.
Well, I think changing the contents of the secret won't cause the app to restart, right?
No, it won't. But yeah.
We wanted to change the secret type as well because currently it is service binding IO user provided or whatever type you provided. We want to make it opaque because it is opaque secret, and the type field is immutable.
And also the type field is a good criterion of whether we've migrated it or not.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because if you look into the secret,
you won't be able to do that. Like if you change this, which secret is mounted, then you're restarting your pod, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're worried that this change might just restart all the apps in the system. Which, I mean, even if it's acceptable to have a downtime, not downtime, sorry. Even if it's acceptable to avoid downtime because you're rolling out the stateful sets, essentially, it might not be acceptable in terms of load because you're restarting who knows how many apps with a single operation. Might bring something down, and probably not what operators love to do, right?
Yeah, it's certainly not ideal. I mean, but I feel like it's something we could document as like you have to do this in a maintenance window and it's going to be disruptive. And
yeah, but I kind of feel like we could probably dig into it some more and try to, if possible, not touch the existing service binding secret, somehow pass it down to the next controller and invent a new instance secret, or I don't really know how to put it, because what you put in the service instance spec doesn't need to be what you output in the instance status and what you send down to the binding controller. So maybe there's some way to be clever about it and just avoid the whole restart thing.
Maybe, Georgi, this piece of code that we looked at right before the meeting where the service binding IO object is created out of the secret referenced by the binding duck type. We maybe just not touch it. It is there, it works for service binding IO. Cool. We just migrate the service instance secret, and for new service bindings that are created, this new secret is going to be used. But we could simply not touch the existing bindings.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we definitely, it's hard for me to, reason about this right now without looking at the code. But I think we should definitely put some more effort in it and just try to not touch the existing stuff. Yeah, I mean, this has been a real bummer because we kept hitting new issues like orthogonal issues, things like that. Anyway.
Yeah, that whole system around apps stopping and starting has been kind of a headache since the beginning. I feel, just trying to model the Cloud Foundry behavior in Kubernetes. I think we came up with something that sort of works, but that restart loop is a little strange.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of strange things because we've spent a lot of time digging. And another thing that we think we could optimize is right now the VCAP services secret, which is the whole other universe secret. It gets built in the CF app controller. And the CF app controller is subscribed for service bindings. And that's a little bit weird. And we thought maybe we can just bring all this behavior to the service binding controller and use service binding IO to project this environment, so that we delete some of our code that mounts secrets as environments, and we take a responsibility out of the CF app, which is already overloaded. But that's another orthogonal thing. Like I'm telling you, like we keeps stumbling upon orthogonal thing after orthogonal thing, and it's just becoming very confusing, as you can tell from this whole discussion. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I think we should give it another go. And for yesterday's for the unbind restart behavior thing, I think we should probably document this for now, and not worry about it if we can avoid the big bang restart problem that we're talking about. If we can avoid this, I think the other thing, given that it's not been noticed so far, I don't think anyone will ever complain about this.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Yeah, sorry about the unstructured approach to this network of problems, but
It's all good.
I think it's natural.
It's okay.
One question I did have, I was just out of curiosity, are you like, as you're finding all these orthogonal things, are you keeping track of them somewhere, or are you like?
Yeah, we have some notes, and I was being very careful yesterday to not throw too much information at you all in Slack.
Fair.
So I was carefully extracting just some bits about the restart behavior, maybe not the most important thing, but anyway, like I think the discussion has had some value anyway, and we'll come back at you if we have more questions or findings or.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll make sure that from these notes, we'll make sure to open some relevant issues if we still think they're relevant.
Cool. Yeah,
in some time.
That makes sense. All good. Cool. Anything else on the agenda? Anyone else have anything they want to talk about? Sounds like no. Maybe no. Okay. Alrighty.
Just try to remember if we had anything come up, but I don't think so.
Yeah, that's fair. I was trying to think that should do the same thing too, but okay. I think we're good then. Thank you all. We will catch you next time. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.